So thank you both. With youth, so I have a few different platform areas that I've been forced to carve down. I had 100 ideas, but I was told I needed to carve them down to like 3 areas, and it's 4 with a whole lot of sub areas. But one of my platforms, so my platforms are affordable housing communities. I grew up in what was called a housing project, and it was subsidized, and it was based on help from outside, like funders, be it federal government, state, local, but then there was also some income, like sliding scales as well. So affordable housing communities. I will tell you that I do not believe that increasing density at the expense of our whole community is going to get us to affordable housing as far as making a dent.
So wait a minute, will you speak a little bit more when you say increasing density? What do you mean by that?
Yes, and I'm gonna come back to that, and I know because there's a youth question. So affordable housing communities, small, women, minority-owned businesses. I'm always an advocate for wages. As far as we can tick those wages up, I want to do that. I also understand that there's a ceiling with budgets. And lastly, though, is community uplift, and that's where you will find some of my ideas for children. Under community uplift, my goal is to strengthen our partnerships and resources with organizations that help the aging population, so our elderly population, to increase mental health awareness. I believe that we do have a gap. I know we have a gap here with access to mental health services before a person gets to a crisis. I also, under that, is working with veterans, because I've worked with veterans before and they just have a special place in my heart. And then children. So one of my initiatives is Every Child Thrives. And by that, I would like to see us reallocate funds for all of our kids that want access to our recreational services. It seems small. Kids develop through play. Kids develop through safe, peer-oriented play. They learn about themselves, they learn about others, they learn about how to engage, how to problem solve, how not to problem solve. And so I would like to see every child, and especially every child that is at risk, I want to see them thrive. And while I know that there are a variety of other things that contribute to development, I do think access to the resources that we have, the recreational resources that we have, it means something. Because as you mentioned, parents are working 2 and 3 jobs. You know, I used to tease Julius, my husband, like, okay, how many, as you're preparing for taxes, you're like, okay, how many W-2s we got this year? You know, you got the job and then you have the hustles. And all of that requires attention, but what that means is that you may not be able to give the attention that you want. And quite frankly, even if you are, kids need to be around other children. They need to thrive and develop with their peers. And so my Every Child Thrives advocates for putting resources back into our what used to be called rec and leisure. Now it's sort of transitioned more to leisure. But kids need recreational activities that they can engage in. And I believe if we can provide that for children, and especially at-risk children, but all of our children. I want our children to swim. I want them to have access to tennis. I want them to have access to whatever it might be, chess. And we have enough resources here for that to happen, but part of it is us prioritizing children. You know, it's saying, hey, yes, these things are very important, but how do we prioritize what children need in this moment? I believe that we tend to talk about children in Athens once a tragedy has happened. Somebody gets in trouble, the law's involved, before you know it, everybody in the community, they're saying, we have a problem that we have to solve. But the problem did not start with that issue. That's a symptom of years, okay? Years of disinvestment in our young people. And so this is also why when I hear people say, we're gonna reopen the centers, in my head, I say they shouldn't have been closed in the first place, right? Reopening, that's part of the work. We get, we're behind about 20 years now. So now we're getting into a new generation of children, but that's okay. We do have to start somewhere, but we need people at the table when those small little things start to happen and you get overwhelmed by the budget and, before you know it is, okay, 30,000 here, 40,000 being reallocated, and they're being reallocated from our young people. We need people at the table to say, no. And we need people at the table that can then call you all, or listen, this is the deal. This is what's going to be happening over the next few months. I really need the community's help because it's truly a community job. So, in a nutshell, I want us to really think critically about where we're putting our resources. And we have had an opportunity with some of our ARPA funding to do beautiful things. We've had the opportunity. Okay, we've done some of that, but we've put money in other places where once it was designated, and then it was undesignated. Okay, and we just need people at the table that can say, no, yes, that's a need, but this is what we're going to prioritize. So that's part of what led me to this path, because my work on the board and my work in schools and my work in the community, at some point you understand that what you see in schools is a representation of our community. And unless we work to make the conditions better for parents and for families in our community, we're doing a lot. I mean, we're making an impact, but we're spinning our wheels in schools. Okay? And so I like to think of I'm doing it for our whole community, but children, that drives me because they don't get a say. They do not get a say. They didn't ask to be born or to be here at this particular time. And a lot of the things that their parents experienced, they didn't ask for either. So they need to be able to rely on leaders that are able to understand the plight of parents, the plight of families right now. And yes, there are limitations, but what can we do with the resources that we have? So I want to see us strengthen those resources.